So for those listening, just to give a bit of context, ALH, it started providing general labour to construction sites in the early days.
Yep.
Can you help link up the progress it made over those first few months or years to when you met Rob Fife on the Milford track and where your business was when you met him?
So we started out in the construction site and I was just going hammer and tong. I was still building, because I was still at uni, right? I still had an overlap of uni because I was like, geez, one of these has got to work, or else I'm fucked. And then I ended up getting the invite to go on the Milford track walk. So I started in August, went on the Milford track walk in end of January with Rob and Sarah, and a mutual friend of theirs, and I handed the reins over to Banjo. He ran now six labourers that I had whilst I was away, and I was stressing out the whole time because I didn't have any cell phone coverage. So when I'd met Rob, I had no idea who Rob was. I had no idea the success that Sarah had equally had at 62. And I kind of fall into this Milford track walk, and we've got all these friggin' awesome people there. And then I kind of just got talking to Rob about business, and he was sharing some stories with me about Air New Zealand, and I was just fascinated by the stories he had, the magnitude of the deals that he was doing, like with Boeing or Airbus at Air New Zealand.
So for those who don't know, he was CEO of Air New Zealand,
CEO of Air New Zealand,
general manager of BNZ, amongst other things. Incredible CV.
Got a good CV. And I was just picking this guy's brains, right? There's probably times, I never forget, it was like day 3, we were going over all these friggin' mountains. It was cold up there. The altitude was hurting my ticker, but I was not going to let him not get away without asking some more questions. And then, so I kind of just leant into it, and he was so open and cool about being honest with everything from it's public information of what he earned at Air New Zealand, but he was happy that I was always money never impressed me, and money was never my be all and end all, but I knew the challenges that would have had to have come to earn those figures. So that's what always drove me. And man, it was just fascinating. I was kind of wow, this is so cool. I've had this experience, and the inspiration I left from Milford track with it was just a completely different beast. I was kind of actually, I want to be having conversations like that when I'm his age to people my current age. And I want to at least try and give even 1% of the inspiration that he gave me unintentionally, just from being a really good bloke and sharing his stories with me.
At the end of the Milford track, is there a little sense of fear with you that he goes his way, you go your way, and that moment in time is that moment in time? How did you leave it to reconnect in the real world?
I never thought about that, and I actually had a really good relationship with Sarah and Rob prior to that, so it wasn't like it was a cold turkey, hey, let's just jump into it. And for me, we kind of laugh about I'm the adopted son in Sarah's family, so I had such a good relationship with them that wasn't never a concern. But equally, I actually didn't think I deserved Rob's time, and I actually didn't expect it. I kind of just thought that was enough. I'm off here. And then it wasn't until 2 months later I called him. I think he was in Colorado or something, and or Montreal, somewhere like that. And because someone offered to buy 49 or 50% of the business for $25,000, and I was like, this is a friggin' awesome deal. I could go and buy it. There was 10% deposit in Gisborne on a home. I could move back to Gisborne. I could walk away from ALH, and I'd still be better off than anyone else my age in Gisborne. And that was actually a really contributing thought to me, seriously contemplating it. I rang him up, and he kind of in short said to me, if you fucking do that, you're never getting my advice again, and that was kind of it. And I was like, actually, he said, Izzy, you're the kind of guy, you've got the kind of energy and drive, you can get this business to 25 to 30 million in revenue. He said, you just have to put your mind to it. And I'm thinking, if this guy's saying this, he's a no bullshit kind of guy. I'll fucking hold them to that. Like, I'm going to get there. And then, so I went and delivered a full first financial year of 1.2 million in revenue by myself. And then it was in about June and July. So it was nearly 2 years before I had any investment, right? And I started with $500. And it took that long. And then I actually went around to Sarah and Rob's and I said, look, Rob, is there any chance I could tap into some of your network? I've got X chasing me for, they want to invest, but I don't know if I kind of align with these guys. So is there anyone in your network? And he and Sarah are sitting right at the table, and he goes, oh, Sarah will invest. She doesn't know that yet, but she'll be keen. And I was like, hey, all right, And then she was like, yeah, come around next week and thing. And I never forget, walk in there. I'm like, I'm going for 80 grand for 10%. Business was probably worth 250k at that time, right? I kind of walk in there and I'm like, 80 grand, Sarah. She goes, well, fuck, I see, I'm not spending more than 50 grand today. And I want 10%, so take it or leave it. And I'm like, deal.
It's a good investment.
And that was it, man. And then actually, sorry, no, that conversation with Sarah was in April, because I remember we got Sammy Jasper on in May, I think. And then and we had to get an employee in order to get the funds released. And that 50k went straight into working capital. And then as we naturally progressed, I went away to Rob and Sarah's wedding in America, which was an awesome experience. Again, like a guy from Gizzy. I'd never been there before. Kind of all these friggin' awesome people there. And from that point, I was there, and then I met a guy called Jonty Edgar. And he kind of said, Izzy, give me your elevator pitch. I was so drunk, I probably dribbled and mumbled the whole thing, and it probably only went for like 10 seconds, if that. And he said, oh, mate, let's just do lunch. Let's just do lunch when I'm back. I was like, oh, fucked it. And then so we went and had lunch at Ibiza. It was the first time I'd ever been to Ibiza, and I turned up in a hoodie and my ripped jeans and my chucks. I never forget what I was wearing, because we sat there at the table and we talked shop for probably 3 minutes, and I was so nervous. I didn't actually know why the fuck he wanted to have lunch with me. I didn't know that he wanted to invest. And what I was going in there for was half of what he offered me. Like, I wanted half of what he came for. He proactively doubled what I needed, because he said to me, Izzy, I don't actually know if Auckland Labour Hire is going to be successful, and I haven't actually had a look at it. He said, but I believe in you, and I believe in you as a person. He said, and I believe that your drive and energy is going to require more capital than what you're asking for, so I'm going to double it. He said, and he went to shake my hand, and he pulled his hand back, and I was like, oh, fuck, the deal's off. And bearing in mind, like, I had such little money, I couldn't have even paid for lunch that day if I wanted to, right? Like, that's how...
What was are you able to say what he doubled it?
Yeah, so he said to me, because you're going to come back to me in 6 months and ask me for more money because you're so driven and ambitious, this company's going to grow quicker than you think. And I'm thinking, this guy's got great mind games. Like, he's gassing me up. And went to shake hand, pulled it back, and he said, there's one condition. And I said, what's the condition? And he goes, the next business you start, you come and ask me and Rob for your investment if you ask anyone. And I said, John, I'm never starting another business. I said, this is fucking way too much already. I don't sleep. Like, it's hectic. It's full on, but I'll shake your hand anyway. And that was it. And I walked out and I called my brother, called Banjo. And I remember just walking out. I was like, mate, you won't fucking believe the lunch I've just had. And he was like, what? He goes, that's more than my house costs. And I said, I know. I said, what's the chances? So it ended up they ended up equally purchasing it. So Sarah, Rob and Jonty had about 10.23% of the business each. So they kind of diluted it and chopped and changed it. So they were all equal shareholdings in the business, because Sarah had drag and drop rights and whatnot. I had given Rob 4% of the business for just helping me. So I gave him 4%. And that was the cheapest. That 4%, no matter how much this business is worth in 10 or 20 years' time, that'll still be the best 4%. That would be the best kind of thing, because it's not the money that the money is the least value I've got from Rob and Sarah, and that support, from what they've been able to offer and provide me, has been the money's been the least important thing.
Did it take you a while to get your head around the money? We've spoken from Gisborne and coming up, and you've had this walk with Rob, and it's changed your perspective a little bit. And then you're talking about, someone investing the price of a house, and you're still 21, 22. Was that an easy thing to take in your stride?
It was. Well, I just knew that I actually wasn't going to take any of the money. Right. It's worth saying. I went and brought a pair of Gucci shoes when I got the money, and that's generally. I brought a Gucci shoes and I brought a ticket to go to the UK for a bit of a bash for a week or two, and that's only money I took out of the $250,000. So out of the $300K, I'd only taken that, and that kind of had signalled. I guess I walked down Rob's steps at his house, and he wasn't even looking at me. He was just looking at my shoes. And he goes, what are those? I said, mate, how cool are these? I said, gone and bought myself some shoes. He goes, do you ever see me wearing those kind of shoes? And I said, nah, man. I said, but how cool are they? He said, basically, I don't want to see those shoes on you ever again. It was kind of like, until I'm near him or whatever, then don't fucking turn up wearing those shoes. And I was like, holy shit. So I kind of never wore those shoes again. And the cheeky bugger, I never forget, because I was walking down doing a beach walk probably like 9 months later, and I was actually telling my friend Jordan the story, and Rob comes around in a pair of Gucci shoes. And it just couldn't have been better timing. So I think, probably back to the conversation earlier on about having that direct conversation, Rob sat me down on my fucking seat and said, you are nowhere near where you need to be before you start wearing that shit. Do you know what I mean? He said, he didn't say it, but I interpret it, stay in your fucking lane. Like, you're not there. You got so far to go. And those conversations and that harsh but fair and rightfully so conversations continued to happen. I got asked to do a TEDx youth talk, and I was so excited, and I emailed Rob and said, what do you think? He said, you haven't achieved enough to do one of these. He said, you'll be putting a target on your back. He said, there's nothing to talk about. I was like, hey, I've just done $3 million in revenue in my second full year. What are you talking about? So you kind of go through those things, but you look at it, and if I didn't have someone holding me that accountable, I wouldn't have known that wasn't the right thing to be doing. So constantly reassessing my image, reminding myself I am Izzy from Gizzy. I grew up in a 3-bedroom with a family of 6. Don't ever lose that, because I don't want to ever lose that. And there's things that you can easily start to lose, but so it's always been constant, caring, accountable conversations to make sure I'm sticking to who I am, and that's generally where the kind of brunt of those conversations come from.
What do you think Rob and Jonty and Sarah saw in you specifically?
Dude, I don't know. Like, if I knew the answer to that question, I could probably answer that 100 times, because that's how many people ask me a year. But man, I was upbeat, I was high energy, I was fucking full of noise, and I'm I just got a lot of energy, man. So they're probably just like, oh, this guy's got a lot of energy. If he could direct it in this way, then so be it. And unintentionally, I'd like to think I was involved in their family enough to probably get a feel of what kind of a guy I am and what I stood for. Sarah's daughters and Rob's step daughters, Toby and Dolly, they instantly almost became like little sisters to me. So I was, before the investment happened, I was kind of picking them up, dropping them off, and we never knew that was where this was going to lead to, but it was just a really organic relationship in my eyes that kind of went to that way. And I genuinely believe, I don't even know if Rob saw where we are today in me. He's just a great guy, and so is Jonty, and Sarah's a lovely lady. To think they just owe it to New Zealand business to give someone a crack.
Yeah, I'm really interested in going down a little Rob Fife rabbit hole here, and it's under the frame of turning a good business into a great business, because you said you're 3 million at revenue at that point, you're up over 30 now. I mean, 30 that is a great business, but with Rob, like, what is it specifically about him in the way he conducts himself or his work ethic, or where has his genius come from that has allowed him to have the career he's had?
Geez, look, I can only speak on my experience with what I get from him. As a chairman, professionally, there is absolutely no tolerance for bullshit. There is no grey area. It's black or white. Don't even try and fucking make it grey. You make it grey, you're gonna get eaten. You've kind of send yourself to the slaughterhouse if you try and make it. It's own the fucking problem. Don't go to him with a problem without a solution. That's always been our philosophy. And he's never reminded me or had to, but every time I get feedback, I action it immediately. So it's and I think it's just like a respect thing. I don't know, like I respected Rob before I even knew who Rob was. I just fucking like Rob. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I think that's probably what maybe made it how it is. You know, like I didn't even know what the hell he was up to or what he had done at the time. So it's kind of like I look at Rob in a personal perspective before I look at one in a business perspective. You know, and we can kind of decipher when we're in the boardroom or when we're at his home for dinner on a Sunday. You know.